Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Animal-Based Dad podcast. This is the show where between my guest interviews with subject matter experts and topic-specific deep dives, the aim is to arm you with actionable insights and information on how to prioritize your metabolic health and improve your overall health and well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Animal-Based Dad podcast. I'm the host, Ricky Duplessis. I've got a wonderful returning guest with me today, a man I'm invited back to do a short 3-part mini-series with me discussing the movement pillar of my 5 pillars of metabolic health. Mr. Toby Swallow, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thanks very much for having me back, Ricky.
Oh, you're most welcome. So, Toby, we'll skip these sort of introductions. You've been with us previously, and I'll refer listeners back, or the audience back to that episode in which you gave your background, where you come from, what qualifies you to speak on the topic. It was a fantastic episode. I think we chatted for just over 2 hours. So it was really good. I enjoyed it. But I've invited you back, and I'd like to pick your brains a little bit and get into the nuts and bolts in this episode of why movement matters. Movement and exercise, use the terms interchangeably. They're not exactly the same thing. When I refer to movement, I refer to more than just physical exercise. I refer to the need to actually move your body throughout the day, both as exercise and non-exercise movement. And I just want to get into why it matters, what it's supposed to do for us.
It's a really interesting question, and I think how you've opened that up is there are separate paths to go down, but let's give a very broad statement here. Use it or lose it. Is that simple? And if we imagine an old garden gate and it's got iron hinges, if you don't open that gate, over time, those hinges are going to seize up. They're going to rust. Yes. And if you only open the gate partially to kind of squeeze yourself through, over time, the hinges will adapt. They will open so far and they will have rusted, or rust will have formed with enough time to not open up fully. So let's say, for example, the full 180 degrees. So it's not just about moving. We need to be a little bit more specific for that. Now, there is also the wider element of not just around maintaining joint range of motion. It's not just about maintaining muscle. It's also about maintaining strength. It's about maintaining power and the quality of the tissue. It's also about tendon health, metabolic health, and also brain health. So movement and exercise are those things that help the system overall. And if we take something like the gold standard in fitness, which is cardiorespiratory fitness, and the measure would be VO2 max, then it's being viewed as the ultimate way on how all of the body's systems and processes work efficiently or not. Yes. So potentially more powerful than something like having a higher BMI, higher cholesterol, higher blood pressure. And that might sound very alarming to some people. But actually, if you want a really high VO2 max, you need to be in shape. You actually need to be really healthy as well. And if we look at the elite levels, not just what your Garmin watch is telling you, but the super elite athletes where they're getting into 70s and 80s plus, then these guys are lean, mean, ready to go. And they are generally overall super healthy compared to many other athletes. And your typical population as well. So it's not about necessarily being the extremist with this. So I think when we kind of look at fitness, we tend to think, well, I need to be a marathon runner or an ultra endurance runner. No, we don't need to go down the extreme. When we think about building muscle, we tend to think about bodybuilding. You don't need to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, or I need to be strong, so I need to do powerlifting type of training. No, the answer always lies somewhere in the middle. Rather than the extremes. So we need daily movement to keep blood flowing, the lymph fluid flowing around. It's great for your brain, keeps us cognitively sharp, but then we need to get into some specifics to keep all of the specific tissues, or the heart tissue, for example, functioning really well. So something is better than nothing, But I do think certainly as we get older, we need to look at targeted elements of, you wouldn't necessarily use cycling to build strong legs and hips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No,
Amazing
that makes
cardiorespiratory
sense.
fitness, but it only forms around a cyclical pattern in a circle, man-made movement, and it's only concentric strength. There's no eccentric strength there, and it's a limited range of motion as well. So we would need, if you enjoy cycling, great, go and do it, but you need to be doing other stuff as well.
I like it. So, a couple of things. What I'm picking up from what you're describing is that the way your body moves, both in performance and in general day-to-day life, is a good indicator or good expression of your health overall.
It's VO2 maxes.
Yep.
How I want to take a back step here.
Cool.
A lot of people view exercise as a punishment. Oh, I need to exercise because maybe I've eaten a crappy meal, I've eaten too much, or I haven't done anything all week. Actually, look at exercise as a celebration of what your body can actually do right here, right now. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just
an expression.
It's an expression, yes. So whether or not you can sit into a full squat or not, that is an expression of your current movement capacity.
Yes.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
And think of it as, if we look at your car, now your body is far more complicated than the car. You buy a new car, performs flawlessly 99.99% of the time. Yes, there are little
Let's get a limb.
Right, we'll skip that bit. But on a cold, frosty winter's morning, new car, you turn over the ignition first thing in the morning and it will start up first time. 2 minutes later, you're driving down the dual carriageway at 70 miles an hour and it won't skip a beat. But if you've got a car with 200,000 miles on the clock, you might say a little prayer as you're scraping the ice off the windscreen, and you then turn over and it kind of whirs, coughs into life, and you might let it sit there for a few minutes to allow the engine temperature to come up to speed. But then even so, you might drive it sympathetically for the first few miles. Well, the older we get, the more miles we have on the clock, and we need to treat it more sympathetically. But equally with our cars, we service them to maintain good performance. And it's not just about putting fuel in and giving it a little wash and a polish now and again, but we replace parts, we service it, new fluids and all the rest of it, and on and on and on. But our bodies need that as well. They need ongoing maintenance. And if we need to replace parts, i.e. I need a hip replacement, I'm going to generalize, it sounds awful, there are exceptions here, but you've messed up somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, if you've had, let's say, an accident, you fell off a bike and your hip got smashed when you were younger and that needs replacing, that's very different than wear and tear because you forced yourself into a range that you didn't own.
Yeah. I agree with that. I like that. I like to also frame the need for movement a little bit. And what I found, and I was guilty of this mindset myself, was the need to exercise to maintain our movement. It's a very modern thing. It's not something that is evolutionarily consistent for humankind over time. It's a very modern invention. It's probably really since the 1800s, a post-industrial revolution issue. As we've found more and more ingenious ways to make life as convenient as possible, we've outsourced much of our daily movement, the normal movement that would have been part and parcel of just everyday survival. And so we've needed to come up with clever ways of re-engaging movement to try and look after that, because as you've correctly stated, if you don't, you lose it, and then your quality of life quite drastically takes a bit of a dip. So I like to frame, and I want people to think about movement as a input for your health. It's something that tells your body what to do and how to do it. It's a trigger and a modulator of health at the very level of your cells. We've got processes like mechanotransduction, for example, which is the force of movement literally telling your bones to thicken, telling your muscles to strengthen. We can measure this with our reductionist scientific approaches now to show how movement signals different parts of your body and forces the adaptation.
And that's it. We adapt to whether we use something and how much, or whether we don't use something.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a constant shift as well. It's never static.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's why I like to frame it as an input, because it's a lifelong daily requirement. Your very biology expects it. It needs it. You've got sensors and cascades of sort of hormonal triggers and things that happen that require movement to set them off. And if you're not moving, whether that be exercise or be non-exercise movements, if you're not getting that, your body sits dormant. You start to sort of wither away and atrophy, and things don't end well for people who are completely sedentary. You know that. You covered that brilliantly in the last episode with your background on frail care in elderly home settings. So I wonder if we might talk, starting with non-exercise movement first, and then build our way into the need for daily exercise as well.
Yeah. So I think if you're not, if this is something that's new to you, let's say you regularly get less than 5,000 steps a day, you're technically inactive. You get up, you go downstairs, you sort out breakfast, you get dressed, you get in the car to drive to work, you get out of the car, go to your desk, to and from the toilet and making coffee, back home, and just reverse. Less than 5,000 steps a day, you're inactive. Just walk every day. The barrier to entry on that is really low. Start small. It might be a 20-minute walk, but then build up pace. So it's not just about getting your steps in. We do need pace in there as well, because gait speed is also linked to fall risk. So we do need to be walking briskly. But if you were to walk every day for an hour a day with a brisk walk, that can change your life completely, because of the effects that it will have on your body if you're coming from a low entry point. Walking alone, though, won't make you fit. It will make you fitter, and it should be included as part of a fitness lifestyle, whoever you are.
Yeah.
Yes. But walking, if you are very unfit and walking is getting you huffing and puffing, of course it's going to make you fitter to a point. But it won't make you fit by a standard. You're then going to need to challenge the cardiorespiratory system even more to get the adaptation necessary to improve. But even if you are cycling, rowing, running, we should also be including walking as the base level of that pyramid. Okay. So I would start with walking and create the routine and build the habit. So that hour's brisk walk every day happens irrespective of what's going on in your life. You reap the benefits where it's great for your mental health. You feel better emotionally and physically. You start to feel better as well.
So we would refer to it as non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And I know the sort of, would you say, the fitness world clings on to that. And it's very important, don't get me wrong. But from the perspective that I come at, I like to break things down into what it's supposed to do for us. So movement is supposed to be more than just energy burning. It's more than just energy management. And I think you've covered that to a degree already. Let's get into what is it movement does for us.
It maintains the quality of the tissues. And it's not just about muscle, there's also bone. You mentioned bone earlier, and let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum there, later life, osteoporosis. Okay, you can take your calcium and your vitamin D supplements, fabulous. I'm not saying don't, but it's also telling your body where you need that to go. and that when the osteophytes turn over and reform, that they need to build back stronger.
Yeah.
So it's not just about taking a supplement, you need to do the work as well. And so will walking do that? We need to be lifting more than we need something a little bit more than just weight bearing if we want strong bones. But it's tendon strength, it's muscular strength, it's muscular power, effect on brain health, cognitive health long term as well. So both cardiorespiratory and resistance training are known to improve or reduce the risk of cognitive decline. So, for example, dementias, Alzheimer's is the most common out there.
Yeah.
But equally, it's not just great for mental health, it's great for your emotional health as well. But if we start doing a physical activity to make ourselves feel better, the primary objective is physiological, not mental or emotional. So look at those as side benefits rather than the primary benefits. Because again, I think if we're thinking, well, I need to go for a walk for my mental health, great, but at some point you can say, today I feel good, so I don't need to go for my walk.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. You got into that in the previous episode that we did as well, because I can't remember the phrase that you used, but you spoke about how you don't get that sense of euphoria from exercise that most people do.
No, I'm alexithymic, so I don't experience that. And there are others as well on the who are neurodivergent. So if you are one of those people that do get that sense of euphoria, fabulous. And
Yeah.
that, I believe, can be very addictive for some people. But it still would need managing because too much of a good thing can also be bad.
Yeah. Yeah, correct. I get that sense of euphoria, not necessarily during the exercise. When I'm training and I'm training hard, it sucks. It sucks all the way. But afterwards, you get that lift and you feel good. You get that little endorphin rush, and it feels fantastic. But I agree, it is important from from the perspective of needing to build discipline. And I'll frame that carefully because I don't like to use motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Motivation works in ebbs and flows. You need to build discipline, and if you understand the reasons to do something, you can then build in the right discipline. So I don't think that we should be chasing the endorphin response. I think you're absolutely correct. I think the endorphin response is a happy side effect. It's a happy consequence. Like, for those who get it, enjoy it, fantastic. But the need to do the exercise or the need to get the movement in needs to be from a physiological understanding perspective of my body expects this, my body needs this. I need to make sure that I'm doing more than the bare minimum.
Think a bit about capacity as well. So at the moment, you're 40.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you would live your daily life, and most of the things that you do are without thought. You can do them very well. So that means you can dress yourself, you can put your pants and socks on every morning, you can go up and down the stairs, you can sit on and off a toilet, wipe your own backside, and it's something we all do. We give little thought to.
Yeah.
So at the moment, you go up and down the stairs and you're probably not out of breath. But if you do no aerobic work over time, those stairs will start to get harder. And they will start to make us huff and puff. And we start to see some people see these changes really early. If they're carrying too much weight and they're very inactive, stairs become really challenging. So then the natural step is maybe to downsize, maybe in later life, thinking, oh, a little bit of easier living, but then we're not using that. So there's if the body's not using it, it'll get rid of it very quickly. So you become less fit very quickly, but also losing the muscle strength and mass around the hips and the legs. Now, I mentioned about sitting on and off the toilet, but I've also mentioned about sitting into a full squat. If all you do is sit on and off a chair, your desk chair, into your car seat or your sofa every day, and the toilet seat is roughly the same height as a desk chair as well, or a dining chair, over time, what will happen is that will appear to be quite a long way down. So we start falling into the chair those last few inches, or start using our arms to support ourselves to lower ourselves into the chair. And then we start to use the arms of a chair or a desk to push up to stand up. So it's not the fact that we can constantly sit to the chair, but the body's adapting. So it'll give you less and less range. But if we're looking at maintaining from childhood the ability to sit and rest in a deep squat, and we're training those ranges as we get older, that chair is always going to be a half squat for you.
Yeah.
Yes. So by the time I hit 70, I'm not going to be able to sit in maybe as a deeper squat as when I was 2. But obviously, that seat height, getting on and off the toilet or in and out of a chair, isn't a challenge because I've been using the joint ranges, the muscle tissue, and all the connective tissues, ligaments, and tendons. And so I've given the body the signals, the signs and signals to say, hey, I still need this. And so it's just because you can do something now, unless we're actually actively working that and beyond the range that we need in everyday life, the body will adapt, not in a good way, later on.
Yeah. So you'll maladapt to underuse of your range of motion.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny you mention that. So I'm 40 now, and I now have no issue with sitting down in a deep squat and getting up and getting on the toilet on and off, and using my legs to lift me rather than needing to lift myself with my arms or dropping into a seat. But it wasn't always like that. In my early 30s, I was in terrible shape. I wasn't in good shape at all. And so the journey out of that is what spurred all of this. And so I can reflect, and it's weird. I put a post up this morning because 5 years ago today, I went and saw my orthopedic surgeon because I had struggled with chronic lower back pain for years. And it got to the point where it was so debilitating that first thing in the morning, I remember I'd wake up and I wouldn't be able to sit up. I'd have to get onto my side and then use my arms to sort of raise myself up on the bed, and I'd have to sit on the edge of the bed for a minute or two and give my back some time to settle. And then only could I attempt to get up, but I couldn't reach my feet. I couldn't put socks on. And it would be like that for the first few hours of the morning. And then slowly as the day passed, it would ease and I would sort of be able to move a bit more freely. But every single day, I would be in pain first thing in the morning, and I wouldn't be able to reach my feet. And you're quite right, like sitting down, I would have to steady myself and drop myself onto the toilet. And simple things like trying to wipe your ass, I would have to breathe and then try and stretch across. And it was just, what a terrible state to be in at 33 years old. It was absolutely horrendous. And I went through the whole NHS process, and it took a long time to try and get it diagnosed because I was convinced that I'd done myself some injuries. And I'd injured my lower back in my youth doing stupid things, lifting things that are way too heavy and just things in awkward positions and stuff. So I'd injured my back a few times, and I was convinced that this must be a lingering injury. And now I'm in my 30s, and now it's all downhill from there. And I need to go and get surgery or something. And thankfully, the scans and everything that they did came back confirming that there's no mechanical or joint issues there at all. From a mechanical perspective, the lower lumbar spine is absolutely perfect.
But even
facet joints.
Sorry, go on. You've mentioned
facet joints were massively inflamed. Massively inflamed, full of fluid and just angry as hell. Lit up like Christmas on the MRI scan. And I was like, well, what? Why is that like that? You're telling me there's no damage. And he's like, no, structurally there's no damage at all, but you're massively inflamed. And for me, it turns out that there were dietary factors causing systemic inflammation. And that just happened to be where it manifested. Maybe it had something to do with the previous injuries I'd had that caused it to manifest there, maybe not. But when I sorted the diet out, and specifically gluten, and when I got away from grains and away from legumes, gone. I have no back pain today at all. I can get up first thing in the morning, touch my toes, no problem. Get up and down without issue. And yes, I've been on that side. Like I say, for me, it was dietary related. So it wasn't necessarily loss of function at that point. But had I not figured out that it was dietary related, had I accepted the diagnosis of you're just going to have to manage your pain and eventually your joints will fuse and then you shouldn't have pain anymore, I would have accepted that loss of motion and I dread to think the state I'd have been in today.
I think your story is very relatable, and my story is a little bit different from yours in the fact that squat was one of the three lifts part of powerlifting, and you have to reach a certain depth. But a deep squat in powerlifting is not a deep resting squat.
Yeah.
When I finished powerlifting, I have scoliosis, spondylitis. I had osteoarthritis in hip, knee, other places in the body. So I was in a position, huge amount of pain, moving really poorly. And it's easy to take on your diagnosis and think, well, I have this condition and I can't. My approach was, I don't want to accept that I have these limitations. What do I need to do to improve my outlook? Because the outlook was not great. It was quite bleak. And so if you've ever seen me sit in a full squat or squat, I squat exceptionally well. And I do get lots of messages on comments, well, it's okay for you. Well, actually, I've had to rebuild that. I've had to own it. Yes, it's not always been like that because in my 30s, I couldn't.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's not been an overnight thing. You don't do this sort of thing in a few weeks or a few months. And in that, there's a huge amount of messaging in the fitness world of 12-week transformations. Yes, if you do 2 minutes of stretching every day, in 6 weeks, you're going to be able to touch your toes or do the splits, what have you. Well, it's not going to, doesn't work quite like that. Because if you can imagine the body in terms of movement, I would best describe it as a Rubik's Cube. We're not focused on solving one face of that puzzle. We're looking at all 6 sides, but I may need to sacrifice short term 1 or 2 sides to fully unlock it to solve the puzzle. Yeah, so
I like that analogy.
I do actually think there is a saying out there, move more, eat less. And I think that's a gross simplification in the health and fitness industry, because if that was true, then everybody would be fit or healthy. Take a look around. That isn't the case. 75% of the adult nation is, or certainly men, are either overweight or obese. Yes. And more people are exercising, which is great. Yes, let's acknowledge that, but it's still a hobby for the vast majority of people. And a hobby is something that you pursue when you have time and when you want to do it. You don't do it when you push for time or you've got to do the school run or work is running late today or it's cold, it's wet and miserable outside. I really don't want to do it today. We need to look at it as an obligation, respecting our physiology. And the older we get, we see a clear deviation between those who've looked after themselves and those that we haven't. In your 20s, it's really not uncommon to see somebody who's very fit and lean and very capable. 30s, there's still quite a few of those guys and ladies about as well. Sorry, ladies, don't mean to miss you out there. We start to see a little bit of a gap in the 40s, but the older we get into your 50s and 60s, that gap grows. But if I was to look at general population now and compare it to elite athletes, the gap is growing massively. But it's not that elite athletes are getting that much better. The improvements at the elite level are just fractionally incremental now because sports science has really come on, training, nutrition, recovery has all really improved massively in professional sport. Where the gap is growing is that people are becoming fatter, slower, weaker, and less mobile. So they're going backwards. So it's almost a bit of a devolution of humankind, certainly in
Well,
the
that's
West.
exactly right. Yeah, the general population are devolving. You're absolutely correct there. And I said a little bit earlier, it's really since the Industrial Revolution that we noticed this come into being, and we've outsourced all of our movement. We don't walk places anymore unless we specifically choose it to. We will ride bikes, get in cars, take public transport. We'll use escalators. We'll use elevators. We will outsource as much of our movement as humanly possible. It's in pursuit of convenience. I mean, I don't know what it is about human beings, but we seem to hyper focus on convenience. And maybe it's because post-industrial revolution life has become incredibly stressful, not in terms of physically stressful, but mentally stressful. So careers and jobs and money pressures and societal pressures and everything like that. It's all become very stressful, and therefore we just look for the easiest way out and everything else.
Life is hectic, life is stressful, and you're right. It is very difficult. And actually, I do believe being physically healthy, being physically fit across all facets of fitness, to meet the established standards, whilst it's straightforward, is actually difficult because does get in the way. Let's
Mm.
face it. Yes, and but it affects all of us. It is
Yeah,
very possible, and I talk about having a system. Yes, having a strategy, because it's not just about, well, today I need to go to the gym, tomorrow I'm going to go for a run, and then, oh, when am I going to do my shopping so I can meal prep and all the rest of it? We've got individual pieces and we try and lump them together, but actually we get a mishmash of things. So actually, if you want to get faster at running, it's obvious you need to run more, but you will at some point hit a wall. That's where we need to look at the specifics of training and load management and what have you for progression. The same with lifting weights as well. But if you want to be physically fit and strong at the same time, we have competing fitness qualities here. So having somebody who's very fit and very strong by a given standard now becomes even more challenging. It's not quite so straightforward. Excelling at something is relatively straightforward, but we don't want to be a specialist. I think today in the fitness world, people have gone down the routes of being specialists because it's very appealing. I know BJJ, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, is very popular at the moment, and they roll around on the mats and sort of have a bit of a struggle cuddle with other men, and all good stuff if you're into that. Sorry, little light-hearted dig there, and I'm like, but if we look at martial artists and you go into MMA, they're looking at practicing a number of disciplines, not just having a ground game, they need a stand-up game and
yeah,
vice versa. But they need the strength and they need the fitness to go the distance. And certainly between rounds, you need the fitness to be able to recover. So we are generalists as human beings. We can run, we can throw a spear, we can throw rocks, we can hunt, we can farm, we can climb, we can swim. Nothing to any amazing ability. We're generalists. Our training should be generalist as well, covering a wide range of things. There are fundamentals that we need. So we need cardiorespiratory fitness, and that doesn't mean lifting weights faster, because the mechanism that drives our heart rate is very different from lifting when we lift weights from actually doing cardiorespiratory exercise, typically running, rowing,
mm,
cycling, that type of thing. But we need some resistance training in there, bone density. It's muscle. It's not just about muscle size, because dynapenia is actually more of a problem than sarcopenia, and we lose power at twice the rate of strength. So we also need to include power training. But the challenge we get, the older we get, I talk about sprinting, jumping, bounding a lot. If we haven't done that since uni, if you're 40, you can't just ease back into that. We need to make sure you've got adequate range of motion in the required joints. We need to take the time developing the tissue quality to handle the load demands of those activities. For some people, that can take a long, long time, maybe a year. For some, less. For some, a little bit more. So is it a DIY? For me, it's never been a DIY approach. When I was powerlifting, I had a mentor, I had a coach.
mm.
Could I have done it without them? I really don't believe so.
Yeah.
And I think we try and oversimplify it, because if exercise was that simple, it's not just about running a little bit faster, a little bit further. It's not just doing another rep in the gym or adding another 2.5 kilos, because if so, in a couple of years, we'd all be running 2-hour marathons and squatting 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And there's only a small handful of men that have done either of those,
Yes.
or come close to it. So it isn't that straightforward. But I think we fall into this trap of, oh, it's easy. Eat less, move more. And I don't think that model is broken, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%.
We know obesity is far more complex than people make it out. Well, you're just lazy and you're just greedy with your food. Well, actually, there are a lot of other complex factors that are involved with obesity. So let's not dismiss that it's a case of you just need to move more and eat less.
It's not as simple as a willpower problem.
No.
Yeah, it can be a lot more complex than that. I like that you frame us as generalists as well. You're absolutely right, because if we look across the breadth of the animal kingdom, whilst we sort of are right at the top as the most intelligent, physically speaking, we're not that great. Not the fastest, we're not the strongest, we're not the most powerful. Like we get outcompeted by animals, left, right, and center. But we are arguably the most generally capable.
We're very adaptable. So it's not just about running. It's not just about walking and doing yoga. You're leaving so much on the table. I'm not saying those things don't have their benefits or purposes. It's using the right tool for the right job at the right time, for the right reason, for the right person, for the right purpose. Or it's always right tool, right job. So you might want to build a house. If you just turn up to do your self build with a hammer is very useful in some instances, but you're not going to be building a house with just a hammer.
Yeah. I don't want to go too much further, Toby, because the next episode we're going to do is going to discuss how to get a person from starting at zero and how they might want to approach reincorporating movement, both exercise and non-exercise. So I think we've done a tremendous job of covering why movement matters today. And if there was one thing that you wanted to really leave with your audience, one thing that you really want to resonate with, what would that be for you?
Exercise is more than just about how you look. It's more than just about that euphoric feeling. It's an investment into your future. And I'm not just talking about 12 weeks or your summer holiday for next year or the ski slopes come January and February. We're looking now at the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and it's having a long-term approach to that. We've become too short-termist in our view of exercise. But if your listeners can take one thing from today that they can implement today, get out and walk every single day and make it a brisk walk. If you're not used to it, start with just 20 minutes and build up to an hour, because that hour's brisk walk a day, if you're coming from nothing, can change your life for the better.
Well, Toby, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to having you back on next week.
Thank you very much, Ricky.
Thanks, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching the episode. I hope that you found the conversation meaningful and informative, and I hope that it has empowered you with some tools and insights that you can take to tweak and improve your own lifestyle approach in pursuit of optimal metabolic health outcomes. If you've enjoyed the episode, and if you're enjoying the podcast, I'd like you to do me the kindness of please subscribing to the channel, giving it a like, maybe even giving it a share. Help to raise awareness and get the podcast in front of as many viewers as possible, because it is my passion to try and help as many people as possible to understand more of the nuance around metabolic health and how to tweak their lifestyle in pursuit of optimal outcomes. Also, if you have any constructive feedback, things that you think I could improve on, any critiques, any criticisms, please do feed them back. I give you my solemn word that I will take them seriously, and I will, to the best of my ability, work to improve and to give you a more refined and more targeted product as a result of your feedback. So I will take it seriously, and I'll do what I can to improve the show. But again, thank you very much for watching. Keep thriving.